ReefDudes is sponsored by Ecotech Marine and Bulk Reef Supply. Today we're getting an update on the Waterbox 7025, keeping it real edition. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. Now it's been probably a couple months since I've done a proper tank update. Life has been hectic. We're gonna get into that. This is called the keeping it real edition because I've been slacking on a lot of stuff and I'm laying it all out. So let's get to the tank update. Now the reason I'm calling this the keep it real edition is because there's lots of stuff I've been slacking on, and this is a bit of a kick my own butt in gear and deal with it. One of them, a little bit obvious. I have this lovely extension cord coming out of the side of my tank. One of my GFCI outlets were tripping on me, so I replug the power bar outlet to one of my kitchen outlets. Been like that for a week or two, definitely on my to-do list. Hook it back up and see if it's still tripping, and if it is, start unplugging things one by one and figure out what's causing it to be sensitive. Maybe I need a new outlet, maybe something down the chains causing issues, who knows. But that's something that I got to figure out and get rid of that lovely extension cord and go back to a nice pristine look. Now coral wise, honestly, overall everything in here has been growing well. Colonies are getting big, like everything's growing into each other, and it's one of those things I debate. Do I keep it au natural reef style and just let things grow and do what it wants to do, grow into each other, or do I start pruning it? It is one of those decisions. Again, it's not all sunshine and roses. There's been a few coral issues. Like you can see this one guy where it's getting blasted from the MP60. You can definitely see there's a little bit of die-off on the flash. All the stuff growing away is perfectly happy. The side directly in front of it is definitely getting blasted. Now most of the corals in the tank are doing pretty dang good, except for the torches weren't so happy, and my goldenrod. Again, it looks like a zeolite tank. Like, it is not super happy. It is very, very pale minty green, and you can see I do have a little bit of die-off and a few burnt tips. Now with this guy, I don't quite know why yet, if it's elk spring or what. Now, this used to be a very, very gold coral, and now it is extremely minty bright green. Now, one would think, if it's this bright, is it getting too much light? Is it getting bleached? Now, the argument I have against that is this started as a little tiny frag probably 2 years ago, and spent its whole life in that spot. So you think it'd be well adapted to it. It's really been over the last 6 months it's been paling out. So then I'm thinking, is it something to do with elk? Is it something to do with nutrient levels? Is it something to do with trace elements? I'm not sure. Hopefully I can bring it back to its former gold self, because it was really cool coral. That's the goldenrod. So we'll see. I am going to order some ICP tests up and see if there has been any big changes in trace elements. Am I excessive amounts of something? Am I deficient in something? That's something that I do need to figure out. Now the other one that's been causing issues is my torches. You can kind of see the green one. There's a couple heads that have been very, very recessed, and I had a few heads die off of my dragon soul. And you can see yesterday I actually fragged off a couple of the dead heads, so it was less depressing. And I did do an antibiotic dip for it, and hopefully that will save it. I was debating doing a full tank antibiotic treatment, but I couldn't bring myself to do it, just because I know it's also going to mess with the rest of the balance of the good ecosystem. Right? So I don't really want to kill off, the good stuff as well. So I did frag off a few of the dead heads, and I did do about an 8-hour dip using Cipro and Amox and just about a gallon of water, and do that for a bit of a treatment for about 8 hours or so, and then I did glue them back into the tank last night. So we'll see how they do. Maybe I'll try one more dip with them in about a week or so, but hopefully I'm hoping this makes them bounce back. I did that dip a good year ago, and it seemed to stop things. Things were really happy. And then the last, I'm gonna say, 5 or 6 months, they've just been slowly going downhill. And again, life has been crazy, baby life. I just haven't got around to doing it. And it's a little bit depressing seeing things change, and you're like, oh, I should fix this, but you just don't have the time to deal with it. So that is life, and that's how things go. This guy is getting absolutely massive in the tank. Does get some really cool structure to it. And yeah, a couple of cool ones are my Gawnies. They're very, very happy. Those guys have been growing very well as usual. Gawnies seem to really like my tank. I almost debated, if the torches do have more issues, put a bunch of Gawnies up there, but we'll see. I would like to hopefully get those to bounce back. If we come over here, this guy's kind of funny. The Walt Disney, there is a couple-inch shelf it's built out, so it's just slowly basting out and building its own ledge to grow on, which is kind of funky. A lot of these ones are just really starting to grow into each other on all different angles, and for the most part they're kind of fusing together, not really causing an issue. On some of them you can see, one coral is growing over top of the other coral. And I actually don't really mind that look, but again, there may be a point where I have to consider, do I need to do something to add more flow to the tank, because it's just going to be a giant wall of coral pretty quick here. Because like these are getting to be, some pretty substantial sized colonies. Now a couple things I've also noticed lately. Actually today, my pH has been insanely high. My pH is currently 8.73. I think that might be a new record. And I'm starting to wonder, is that too high? Possibly. So 8.73 is definitely up there. And if I click into it, I think 8.76 was my peak of the day. So, yeah, 8.76. So that is honestly probably too high. You can see I've been doing this battle of pH over the past year or two, and boom, I'm obviously winning now, but is it too winning? And since I know I'm going to get asked, what am I doing for pH? A couple things I'm doing. First off, I have my DIY recirculating CO2 scrubber. So that recirculates my skimmer when the skimmer's on, like it's off right now. I did change my skimmer to just run at nighttime. So when my pH starts to dip is when my skimmer kicks on, and that basically stops it from dropping at night. So that's part one. Part two would be kalkwasser. Now I dose kalkwasser again only at nighttime to deal with my dips. I do have the calcium reactor going. This depresses CO2 a bit, but this guy is running just in the daytime. Or sorry, this guy's running 24/7. So I got my nice fancy schmancy georeactor back there, and that doses 24/7. And on top of that, I've been also dosing about 100 mils a day of hydroxides as my alkalinity solution. And that basically removes the CO2 from it. So between the three of these has been giving me some insanely high pH. But now the magical question is it too high? And I think 8.76 is probably getting a little on the high side. So I think what I'm going to do is add in some code to, maybe I'll turn off the calc, maybe I'll turn off my hydroxide dosing, some of that stuff when it hits 8.5, and hopefully that will keep it within a semi-reasonable range. Now the interesting thing is a lot of the stuff's been happening on its own because it is mostly all automated. I do have the Apex on this tank. I do have almost everything automated for turning on this, that, and keep everything in check. And even my ATO bins refill themselves, and honestly that has probably been the tank's saving grace in the past year or so, with my life being so crazy and having a newborn and all that fun stuff. One thing too, you can see my Alcatronic container, that is empty, that needs to be refilled. So I do have the Trident as well, so ideally I like to have my dual testers, but again, I've been a bit of slacker because I at least have one tester going. So I'll fill that baby up tonight and get things back in check. I think I showed these off before. This was a little DIY I did for making some light shades for them, for my XR30s. Again, that just cuts all the light spill. Kind of see the difference, so I take one off. I got that, see the light on the wall? Add it on, definitely tones it down. So fairly noticeable. Big thing is I do have a projector in the room, and that just cuts off a lot of the light wash on the wall and keeps the light out of my little guy's eyes, so win-win on that one. Well, the fish are swarming and they're getting hungry. I am still running ozone on the tank. It's not quite as clear as normal, but I was just messing with the tank a little bit. So as long as my ORP is under 410, I believe it is, it runs nightly for a couple hours every night. And that's been working pretty well. Another question I get asked on a constant basis is what parameters, what levels do I keep my tank? So while we're on that one, currently elk, we got 8.22, 405 calcium, 1341 magnesium. And for our elements on the nutrient side, once it loads from the Mastertronic. So 2 days ago we had 12.25 NO3, we got 0.06 for phosphates, and it looks like calcium and magnesium are both reading a bit higher than the Apex. So it's either somewhere between 400 and 500, and was it 1350, 1550, so probably give those a quick calibration and just double check which one's right. Again, I might probably send off an ICP test, and that will be a good way to kind of compare, then I can make sure everything's dialed in properly. So hopefully that gives you guys a bit of an update on the state of things and where the tank's been the last couple months. Definitely was a little past due on doing an update. Again, life gets crazy and certain things get neglected on the tank, like my little to-do list, but refill a bunch of my stuff, fix that outlet, all that fun stuff. Now hopefully I can figure out what is up with my torches and my one Anacropora, and hopefully those answers will be within an ICP test. So I'll probably give you guys an update once I get that test done and just kind of figure out the state of things. Like all my main base elements, my nutrients, all that stuff is all in reasonable ranges in my mind. And really every other coral in the tank seems happy. Everything's growing like crazy. That's probably partially due to the higher pH. But, you know, even like a month or two ago, I trimmed a bunch of stuff out of here, and you can't even tell. There's so much stuff in here already. So yeah, overall, I think the tank's looking pretty awesome. But again, just because 2 corals are bad, you shouldn't do any knee-jerk reactions and mess with the rest of the tank. But I would still like to figure out what's up with it. So if you guys have any ideas on possible causes of those two, definitely let me know. Otherwise, I'll give you guys a bit of an update once I do an ICP test and figure out where the tank's at. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this update of the Waterbox 7225, keeping it real edition on all my slacker stuff and kind of the state of things. As always, if you enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you're new, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next update.